This is my story, from $4 to over 9 million in 5 years. My name's Lovell, and the reason I make these videos is because building online businesses has completely changed my life, and hopefully, by watching these, they can maybe change yours too. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly how I went from $4 in my bank account in 2018 to making over $9 million online. I come from a pretty normal family back in Adelaide, South Australia. My parents split when I was quite young, so I moved between a few different schools and ended up living in 11 different houses by the time I was 18. They both worked really hard to send me to a great high school, but we were definitely not rich. So that's the starting point, a kid from Adelaide, and now I'm 23 years old. I travel full time. I built a multi-6-figure creative agency. I've built a multi-7-figure e-commerce brand portfolio, and also a multi-6-figure and very fast growing education company as well. And I know it's stupid, but I'm able to fly business whenever I fly anywhere. I'm able to buy nice presents for my friends and family. I'm able to fly my mum over to Barcelona to see me for a week and fly her in first class. And I'm able to just go out to nice dinners and not have to look at the price tag, that kind of financial freedom stuff. The journey has definitely been fun. It's been a lot of challenges, ups and downs, and that's why I'm so excited to make this video for you. So maybe you can relate in some way to what I've gone through, and you can use that as a bit of motivation to know that you can make it. It all started really in 2006 when my parents got divorced. I think it taught me early on to be quite independent. And looking back on it now, I could see how it's molded me as a person, but at the time I was like, oh, I just get 2 Christmases. I get 2 bedrooms. This is pretty cool. And one thing I've noticed is that I tend to turn to myself first before going to others to solve problems or try and figure things out. I think that's one of the main reasons that I leaned into sport a lot when I was growing up, especially a lot of solo sport. Basketball was the only real major team sport I played in my early years, but I was playing tennis, 10-pin bowling, cricket, a lot of sports where if you win, it's sort of on you to make sure your performance is really strong. And team sports I sort of grew into over time. Then I think like every entrepreneur they have their original side hustle, the first thing they did to make money. And for me, it was selling stickers. There was this craze at my primary school where everybody liked these scratch and sniff stickers. And my mum and I went to Cheapest Chips, this discount store, and we saw sheets of these for 50 cents. And I begged my mum, I'm like, Mum, please can we get some of these? And so we got some, and then I made a custom booklet, took it to school and started selling the sheets for $2 each. And so it was basically infinite profit margins because my mum was paying for the stock and then I was selling them. I definitely had some other side hustles when I was growing up. I used to caddy for my mum when she was playing competitive golf. Used to get $1 a hole for that. Thought I was straight bowling after every round of golf because $18 were coming into my pocket. And as a 11 or 12-year-old, that's some pretty serious money. Fast forward to high school, I thought I figured out what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. I always loved the show Thunderbirds growing up, seeing all these rockets flying around. I was always fantasizing about planes and rockets, anything that flew in the sky really. And for a lot of my early years, I was surrounded by a lot of aviation things. Like my grandpa on my dad's side, he flew gliders and there was always pictures of fighter jets or things around their house. And then my grandpa on my mum's side was in the Royal Air Force in the UK. And so had a lot of aviation growing up, I guess. And so at school, we were talking about what do you want to do as a job? And those questions were starting to get thrown around. And I remember watching this documentary on National Geographic. And the title of the person they were interviewing was aerospace engineer. And I thought, that's the coolest thing ever because he was working on planes and rockets. At this point, I decided that's what I want to do. I want to be an aerospace engineer. And because they're paid pretty well as well. And that evolved into me wanting to be an astronaut. And I thought if I start as an aerospace engineer in that industry, I can then go into the private sector and maybe weave my way into being an astronaut in one way or another. When I was 15, I got my first job selling shoes at Foot Locker. And this was my real taste, I guess, of making money. I'd work 5 hours every Friday night and a bunch more hours over the school holidays and the Christmas break, and I was making $10.55 an hour. I thought I was balling. I was making this money, I was storing some away, I was buying some things for myself. This was my first taste of making money. And even though in the grand scheme of things, that wasn't a lot of money, but at the time it did feel like a lot to me. And it definitely made me hungry to start earning more. I was excited every birthday because that meant a slight pay increase from $10.55 to like $12.20 an hour and then to $15 an hour. So I was always excited for that next thing to tick over because I knew I'd be making more for the same work. And then everything changed. One day when I got home from school, I laid on my bed and I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this ad from this guy named Iman. So here was this 17-year-old talking about how he was making $30,000 to $50,000 a month online with something I'd never heard of before. And seeing that after thinking that my whole life was going to be go to school, figure it out, go to university, get a job, and then have a consistent income. Seeing this person that was my age making that kind of money online, doing something I'd never honestly heard of or never even thought about, it was crazy to me. And so I watched his videos, absorbed the content, ended up spending all the money I had in my bank account at the time, saved up from selling shoes, and I used that money to buy his program and learn how to build a social media marketing agency. And at this point in my life, I had about $1,000 to my name. I had a bit of experience. I was making some videos on the side in between schoolwork and sport. And I had a bit of a trajectory, but I was honestly questioning whether I wanted to go down the engineering route because I don't know who it was. And it's very interesting advice, I think, to give a 17-year-old is create a 50-year plan. And when I drew it out, I would do my study. I was planning to go into the Air Force. So there'd be this minimum required service that you'd have to give back at the end of your studies to pay back essentially the studies they've given you. And so after that, in every plan I wrote, I wanted to go straight back into business, making videos, working with businesses, growing my own business. And so I thought, why am I doing this chunk in between? Why don't I just jump straight into building my own business? So when I saw that video from Iman, something clicked and I thought, I need that kind of freedom. I want to be doing what he's doing. And so I changed all my subjects at school. I withdrew from maths and all the science subjects and focused on business subjects instead. And I realized I'm actually going to give this a red hot crack. But as soon as exams were done, I went straight into building my own social media marketing agency. And I had a background in making video content. So I was pitching that to local businesses, cold calling them, cold emailing them. I even have an old YouTube video where I actually went into some of these businesses and had meetings in Adelaide. And I was pitching them on doing work for them. So you can see an 18-year-old inexperienced Austin going out there trying to close these deals in person. And look, I say it was an agency, but I was really just a glorified freelancer at that point. I was the person with the camera, I was the person editing, but using that simple approach, I was able to get to 15, 20K months in revenue. And then when COVID hit, because all my clients were local businesses, my business dried up overnight. And this was around the time where a friend of mine said, hey, you're obviously not working with your local clients anymore. How about you try making videos for e-commerce brands instead? Because e-commerce brands don't close, it was just growing and booming because everybody was at home on their phone during the lockdowns. And at this point, I literally had no money in my account. I had to get government support to cover rent for a few months because I just moved out into my own apartment. And now I was in this tricky situation where all of my clients that I built up all this revenue with weren't going to be working with me. And so I quickly fixed up everything, made some adjustments, and started pitching my video services to e-commerce brands instead. I was able to land my first client within 48 hours, and then that's when things really started to take off. I was focusing on making video ads for e-commerce brands. And this is where I really started to build an agency. New clients were starting to come in regularly. We started to focus just on making UGC video ads for e-commerce brands. I built up a bit of a team, and we ended up working with over 100 different e-commerce brand clients and making over 2,000 video ads. And from March 2020 to August 2022, I made about $460,000 with my agency. But as I was making all these ads for e-commerce brands, I was hearing about some of the crazy numbers they were hitting. I was also seeing people online talk about drop shipping and building their own e-commerce stores as well. And over the past few years, I'd experimented with that. I'd launched a few stores here and there, but results weren't promising. I launched my first store. It got couple $100 in sales. Then I had a few failed stores, and then I launched another store that got to $1,000 in sales. But then I did another one, and that one hit my first 1K day, then 2K, then 5, then 10. And it was coming to a very interesting point because I was about to move to Bali with my girlfriend at the time. And I was running the agency, and I also had this dropshipping store. And at that point, I decided to take the biggest risk I've ever taken, stop the agency that was paying me every month and had recurring clients, and say, I'm gonna go all in on building this store and focusing on my own e-commerce brands. And that's when my life really took off. I did $50,000, $90,000, $120,000, $350,000, $550,000, $900,000. And then in November of 2022, I hit $1.2 million in revenue with one of my stores. This wasn't all profit, but compared to running an agency where I was able to scale it up to maybe 25, 30, I think 35K was the most I ever did in a month, but it required so much effort from me. With the store, it was just so much more streamlined for me. It just felt like something clicked. It felt a lot more effortless. And so I finally had this money, which I really didn't have before, and this simplicity. And so I was able to sort of go and do what I want, really. And then on Black Friday in 2022, I hit $126,000 in revenue in a single day. And I can remember what I was doing on that day. I was in Dubai. I was actually out in the desert in a buggy, driving around, having some fun. And every time I checked my phone, I saw the sales going up by a few thousand at a time. And I'd never seen something like this. The day before, I hit about 74,000 in revenue. But I thought Black Friday, okay, maybe 90, maybe 100,000. But it just kept going up and finished the day on such a big number. And for me at the time, those were ridiculous numbers. I'd never seen numbers like that being generated in a single day. And in terms of profit, there was well north of $20,000, $25,000 in net profit from that day alone. And so it was a pretty crazy experience for me, going from running an agency where I was spending all day, every day, trying to grind and grow it, get clients, service the clients, build a team. Building a creative agency is definitely a tough gig. Going to running my own store and having just this simplicity and being able to grow it. Now, fast forward a couple of months, I'm back in Dubai after Christmas, and I look myself in the mirror and I say, you're 22 years old, you're not in good shape, and your health sucks. I was always a pretty skinny guy because I played a lot of sport, a lot of cardio, and I just seemed to not put on mass no matter how hard I tried. But then from 2020 to 2022, I just ate so much. I just ate the worst food and I ate lots of it. I started putting on some weight and I started getting bigger and bigger. And I didn't make it a priority to go into the gym or consistently run or take care of myself because I was in this phase of my life where I thought you have to sacrifice everything just to get ahead, just to make progress. But when I looked myself in the mirror, I knew I had to change something. And so that's when I started going to the gym more consistently. I got back into running. I finished my first marathon on 4 days' notice. I was running a bit beforehand, but I saw the marathon coming up and thought, why not? Okay, you got to push yourself this year. You got to take challenges head on. And so I thought I can do a marathon. I barely finished it. It was hard, it was tough, but I got it done. I started going to the gym and I started eating properly as well. 2023 is really where I started to become a man. I was just out of a 3-year-long relationship. I just moved overseas. I started making 30, 50, 70, 80K a month in profits. I was making really good money and I was actually starting to take care of my health as well. Then in 2023, I met some really cool guys in Dubai, also from Australia, who'd also been on a similar journey of building different businesses, and we decided to go into business together. I'd really spent the past 4 years with my head down, really just focusing on growing the agency and building these stores. And when I looked up earlier this year, I realized there's probably a lot of value that I can share with other people too. Even just helping them get started, get their first few sales, get to 5 to 10K a month in profit. So we teamed up, created an education company called Freedom, and we started sharing all the knowledge of what we built up over the past 4 years. And this year we've been traveling full time, building the business, building the community. We're up to a team of 26 people now, and it's growing really quickly. And we're on a mission to reform the education system. So it's a long-term game. And I sort of knew that getting into building this, that we weren't just going to build a course business. We're all aligned on that. We wanted to actually make an impact beyond online education and actually help reform the traditional education system. I'm honestly so excited for the next phase of life. Everything is accelerating a lot and things are compounding too. And that's basically my story and a step-by-step on how I did it. And there was loads of other failures along the way, like sinking thousands of dollars into dropshipping stores that just didn't work and wasting so much time trying to build ad funnels and elaborate systems for acquiring clients at the agency, trying to build a course on peak performance that never really took off, and I dedicated so much time and effort to that. There's been so many projects along the way that haven't worked and so much money that I poured into those things, but I'm really making this video for all the new people that come across my channel to introduce myself, say hello. My name's Austin, this is who I am, and this is what I've done so far. And because my friend group didn't have the same goals or trajectory as what I wanted to do, it was very difficult to talk about these things with them. So I'm really making these videos for you so you can have your own online business and start making 5K to 10K profit per month, because that's where life really changes. And honestly, my goal with this channel is just to give away all the juicy stuff for free, because I do run an education company and I do show people how to build an online business. But I know for most people watching, they're either just getting started or they don't have a lot of money to invest. And that's why they're on YouTube, because they want to figure out how to do it on their own. And I like that hustle. And so that's why I want to give you all the secrets. I want to tell you how I've done it. I want to give you the guides, the templates, Everything that I've done, I want to give it to you so you can go and do it for yourself as well. Because as I said at the start, building an online business has completely changed my life. You would have heard in this story how big of an impact building online businesses has had for me. And so if I can pass that on to you, if I can motivate you in any way, if I can inspire you to take action, and if I can just make it just a little bit easier by giving you some of those guides and templates and resources so you don't have to go through the trials and tribulations and the wasted money and all the wasted time that I went through on my journey, then for me, that's a huge win. Appreciate you sticking here until the end. Grateful that you decided to spend your time with me, and I'll see you again soon.